And we are live.
I take offense to that. No one ever accused me of being alive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, here, let's mollify you a little bit. There you go. A little bit of Jenson fan service. You should be fine.
Always like fan service. Oh no, that is one of the few things that will bring me to life.
Are you saying your hopes were dashed when it turned out that story was false about the cat girls?
Oh, I am absolutely gutted. And I've found out that both Tim Paul and Carl Benjamin, i.e. Sargon of Akkad for them who don't know, not a fan of the felinoids. And I think that's disgusting. What is wrong with these people?
With the felinoids? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, to be specific, it's any of the cross species. So, I mean, technically, in the ultimate definition, that is true racism.
Can you start speaking again, please?
Certainly, it's not. Oh, blood! Don't tell me a bloody. No, it's working. It's lit up and everything.
No, it's not that. It's just I'm noticing that the channel. You should only hear. There's bleed over in my mic. Why is there bleed over in my mic?
I have no idea. What bleedeth over? Is it me?
Yeah.
Oh. Do you want me to unplug and come back in?
No.
Okay.
Why would I want you to do that? That's not up to you.
Okay. Well, in that case, I have run out of all of ideas involving fixing this, because turn it off, turn it back on again is my go-to thing.
I'm just kind of surprised that there's some kind of bleed over here with this headset. It's the headset issue.
Oh, right. Not a clue, mate. Sorry.
Maybe I need to turn this thing down. Let me get a little. Speak now.
Okay. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's better if I turn you down, but then I can barely hear you.
Oh.
That's not what I want.
No.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to readjust things.
Obviously,
for those who don't know out there in the world, the land of living, just so you understand, I am speaking on a headset, not my normal setup, and it comes through a little different.
Oh, that'll teach you.
That'll learn me. Yeah, I know. I was just a little surprised, is all, that that there's some kind of crossover mic there. I might have to go back to the normal setup, but I don't like that at the moment for when we're just chatting and stuff. It's not that I shouldn't say that I don't like it.
Change is evil.
Well, I like to change in the positive things, and this is in a lot of ways much more comfortable for me. All right,
I completely understand.
Rather than trying to speak directly into a microphone, because it limits my ability to move and turn and things like that. Whereas when I just got a headset on, that becomes quite that much easier.
100% agreement.
So that's why we're doing this. Now, let's start with first of all, what is your disagreement with Carl, baby?
Well, dear old Carl Benjamin, also known as Sargon of Akkad, doesn't like the crossbreeding of humans with animals, or to be specific, felinoids, lupinoids, etc. i.e., he wouldn't like memes. Don't start. We know your thoughts on memes. Actually, Memes is a really nice guy, and to be honest, anyone who don't like him obviously don't know to do. But seriously, it seems that Carl and Tim Paul apparently not a fan of the human animals. Let's just put it that way. And my question is, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Well, hold on. Okay. I mean, there's got to be a differentiation there, all right? When it comes to furries, as far as I'm concerned, a furry could get shot. That's a different story. Okay.
No. Furries are furries. I'm literally talking felinoid species,
Yeah.
as in human cats, not humans dressed up as.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
No.
I
No. No.
want
No.
to make this very clear.
I get that. Okay.
Okay.
But the thing is they may not get that.
Mm,
All right. Now, if you talk about human genetic experimentation,
yeah.
uh, I hate to say this, it's going to happen.
Well, look, you're ex-military. You know full damn well they would make superior soldiers to what we got currently.
Yes and no. Feline soldiers would not be superior soldiers. Let's be perfectly frank.
No, no. They would be espionage. I completely agree. Actually, what I would put if I was going to if I was going Island of Dr. Moreau on this, I would actually, for the soldiers, I would crossbreed them with ants.
No, you don't want ants. You want dogs.
That would be my second choice.
Dogs
Just
would
to
be
let you know.
a much better choice. Ants can't think on their
Okay then.
own. Ants. Okay, ants are fine until they lose direction. And let's be perfectly frank,
Dude,
it's real easy to cause people who are overly linear, and
yeah,
you know this, Jensen, being in the
yeah.
military, the ones that are overly linear are the funnest to mess with and the easiest to deal with.
I totally agree. And hey, Batman,
Hail Hydra.
we are streaming. You have
I
been
know.
warned.
I know.
Okay.
I saw. And no, you don't want ants. Ants are bad. You don't want dogs either.
Okay.
Gorillas.
You don't want
Gorillas
gorillas.
have possibility, but they're not exactly pack animals. Was actually why I
No,
thought
they're,
ants.
they're social animals, though.
Yeah.
Are they? All right. They're overly the problem, and I understand the feeling with this, but the problem with gorillas
Well, you're
is
breaking up to me.
Yeah, no, he is a little bit, but I didn't want to stress him.
what
He's
what is
already
it?
having.
You sound fine. Sounded fine on the string, but here in Vic, you sound terrible.
Yeah.
I sound terrible.
Yeah. Oh,
You
wait, that's
keep
your normal
breaking.
voice.
No, actually, being serious, he's right. It does break up a little bit. Now, I know you're using your headphones, but it sounds as though you're turning away from your mic, which is quite an impressive trick since you're using headphones.
How's this? Is better?
Works for me. What about you, Batman?
Yeah, sounds better. Well, in that you sound like you're at a level volume. Anyway.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Makes a change from those days where you used to open your mouth and the entire world used to go temporarily deaf.
I can bring that back. I can bring that back.
Yes, we know you can.
I've been kind of trying to avoid it, but I can bring it back.
Mhm.
It's ever since those people from the Geneva Convention had a chat with you, isn't it?
Ah, screw them. They deserve what they get. And that's coming from me. But to be fair, I've never been a fan of anything
The
European.
problem with gorillas, quite frankly, is the hierarchy becomes less intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
that becomes
just the same as humans then.
Not exactly.
That's also not far off, though. He has a point. And in relation to my point with the ants, when you've been in the military, you get treated as though you're basically a brainless idiot when you're at the bottom end of the scale. And apparently, only those with brass actually class as intelligent. Tell me I'm wrong, Nomad.
Whereas when you're at the bottom, when you're one of the people at the bottom, you think it the opposite way.
No, we know it's the other way round. You lose intelligence the moment you get NCO. Sorry, the moment you go on.
I mean, I came in at the middle of what you're on about. I just heard you breeding ants was something to create soldiers, wasn't it?
Yes.
Elephants.
Why would you breed an ant with an elephant? I mean, that's
No.
weird.
Use elephants instead of
know.
ants.
No, actually, elephants apart from the bull elephant, when it goes completely batshit crazy, elephants are actually far too passive.
No, they're fucking not. African elephants are fucking dangerous.
And exactly what I just said about the bull elephant.
No, I didn't say bull elephants. I said
No,
African
you did.
elephants.
I agree, you
said-
did.
No, I didn't. I didn't say bull
No,
elephants.
I'm agreeing with you numbnuts.
Well, African elephants in general are dangerous. They'll attack for apparently no reason. Like I said, apparently no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there is a reason. There's a guy who used to be a poacher. Ended up and he gave up poaching because he kept getting caught, and he became a safari guide.
Yeah.
And he was taking these people out on safari to see the elephants. And there was this old fucking matriarch, because elephants are matriarchal.
Yes.
Who saw him, recognised him, and led the herd to attack him.
Yeah, that's a bloody good reason. And A6er. Yep.
Hello, Sevener.
There's no sound from you, mate.
I'm not sure what that was.
Okay, hello, Minnie Mouse.
The question is, how does the melon fit? That's what I'm trying to work out.
What I'm trying to work out is how do you get a pair of pants that tight on?
Oh, that's easy. You pull real hard. No, still nothing from you, Sixer. I don't break it to you, but your mic is not doing
anything.
Yeah.
Apart from making loud squeaky sounds.
I'm gonna crowd people in here.
Welcome, Maddie.
Hey, Maddie.
Hello, Maddie.
Hello.
Ah.
It looks like that? MC was getting overwhelmed by you people from across the pond, so I'm trying to even the numbers a bit.
I thought that he deserves it.
That's
true.
And
the answer to the question of how do you put on very tight pants, shoehorn.
I told you. Pull hard and shoehorns. Yeah, I agree. And yes, Sixer, we can hear you now, mate.
Yeah.
Maddie,
you don't want to be pulling hard. You're not from then.
Girls before who were into those jeans that make your feet blue.
It's amazing that Batman actually had a girlfriend.
I had a friend of mine that I coined the phrase being in size denial. Okay.
Yeah.
Because she and I had the same build, so I know we wore the same size pants, but she refused to buy size 16s. She would buy size 14s or size 12s.
Mm-hmm.
She went with me, or she drugged me to the mall one day because I don't like shopping, so it's more like a drag. She drugged me to the mall, and she saw me go into a changing room with a pair of pants. And then about 10 minutes later, she saw me come out. And she said, "What took you so long?" I said, "There are certain criteria that have to be met before I say the pants fit." And she goes, "What are the criteria? Can I sit and breathe? Can I bend over and breathe? Can I kneel down to tie my shoe and breathe? Breathing is very important."
Funny that people seem to keep breathing all the time.
Yeah,
if I sneeze, will I pop a button? Things like this are very important.
Yeah, and can you feel a pulse in the ankles?
Exactly. That's also a useful thing.
And Sixer, in reply, I have to say, I could have been cruel. I could have said, the only reason you're a father is because you've got a dart gun that you fill with sperm.
What? It never stops you from doing that anyway, so what the fuck are you talking about?
I said I could say that, but I'm not
going
to.
But you will anyway, but there you go. It's never stopped you. That's the sort of person you are.
Could, but I'm not going to.
But you are. You know you are. You can't help yourself. Hello, have you met yourself?
I don't care.
I know.
We know.
You met Batman? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that?
I said, "Hello, furry bastard. Have you met Batman? I'm sure you have."
That is the point.
As you see, Nomad isn't being outnumbered. We pick on each other more than we pick on him.
Oh yeah.
Just.
Yeah, as you can see,
he's an American. That means he's got thin skin.
You just get out of the way when they go after one another.
Could be worse. It could be worse. It could be Canadian.
I've already accused him of being Mexican. Don't worry.
Look,
that's actually
my family is from that wonderful country where people are so ingenuitive they can make anything float, including vehicles.
Oh, yeah, I know, Korea.
I'll be honest, hon. You guys have got some of the best cars in
north or
the
south?
universe.
I don't know.
Yes.
We do. And because of the embargo in Cuba, we have wonderful machinists too that make the parts that keep the cars running because they don't
Oh,
make those
yeah.
parts anymore.
No, those cars. Oh my God, they are beautiful.
Oh, I remember when I was with my second one, I was married to my second husband. My kids sat down in the living room because they were, I think it was the History Channel, doing a documentary on Cuba, right?
Mhm.
And the first thing he was shocked at was, "Mom, what's that truck? Is he pulling out a large block of ice?" Yes, they still use what are called ice boxes in Cuba. Holy crap! How does that work? We'll look it up after the documentary. And then he started paying attention to the cars on the road, and he goes, "Mom, those cars are from the 50s and 60s." Yes. And they're still running? Yes, because
the
Cubans
earliest
might have
telephone
been
is
sitting on the road.
and the
yeah.
earliest telephone is two cans and a string. There you go.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's a smoky fire in a blanket.
That's also a fair statement.
Wrong country.
Nah.
No,
It's
actually,
not
it's the right
cans.
country.
Excuse me, sir. It's not 2 cans, nor is it a smoky fire in a blanket. It's a stepping outside your house and going, "Oi, mijo!" That's the phone.
They
Oh,
No,
always do.
that's a Northeast English telephone.
That's what the bit from the Simpsons. You know, Cletus got a kind of put telephone pole. Hey, I can call my mom from a beer. Hey, mom, pick up the phone.
or a rather loud whistle, because I was
Yeah.
privy to that.
I used
Yeah.
to think that goblins riding rats was just in D&D until I saw recent pictures from Birmingham.
Oh God, yes. Oh no.
I was in summer break. I was in the Keys with my cousins, and we were all the way on the other side of the trailer park because my 2 uncles had a trailer apiece at this particular park for their vacation homes. We're on the other side of the park. We're having fun, and all of a sudden I hear this whistle, this loud whistle, and I'm like, "What was that?" My cousin Ramon, "That's my dad. It's dinner time."
Yep.
Your dad whistles that loud? Yeah, just don't stand next to him when he does it. You won't be able to hear anything for the next 10 minutes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Ah, the good old days.
Yeah.
The days we all
That's not
miss
the
in
good old
life.
days for you. That's last week for you.
I might
Oh,
be
that's
the
yesterday for you.
I might be the elder, but I'm not that elderly. Well, maybe I am.
Oh, come on.
How old are you?
You can remember the universe before the Big Bang.
Not
And I'm
quite.
just a little kiddie.
We had to teach the baby of our server a couple of weeks ago, you know, rule number 1, because we have somebody named Quara in our server. And somebody started making fun of him because we said something that he had never seen, or an actor that he did not recognize. And they're like, "What do you mean they don't recognize?" I said, "This is the baby of our server. He's 24 years old." Quara goes, "I'm 25. I said, "Rule number 1 of our server. The only time you correct somebody with your age is if they make you older."
Yeah.
Well, who's the oldest here then?
Me.
You. How old are you then?
I'm going to be 51.
Oh,
52 this year. Excuse me, 52 this year.
this year I'll be 55.
I'm 61.
I am eligible for retirement.
Why haven't you?
You were eligible for retirement when dinosaurs ruled the earth.
According to B, I'm
Yep.
12.
Yabba dabba do.
So Jenson's a little worried now because he's the baby of the group.
It's funny.
Oh,
to think I'm
Dad.
actually used to being the youngster. It's quite funny when Yorkie comes in, because it's like, oh my God, for once I'm not the youngest. Oh, thank God for that.
Well, you're older.
And
You're considerably older than Ms. Murder, isn't she? Aren't you?
Yeah, no, I am. I'm 37.
my mom had to be reminded when
to be
she had
37.
visited Georgia, one of her friends' houses, because her friend is in her 80s, tried to get mom to go to, quote unquote, a red hat session with her fellow friends to play, what was it, either canasta or bridge. And her friend's husband said, "Remember, Marta's in her 70s. She's not that old yet."
Yeah, Noddy, what's a red hat session?
Apparently, she has friends that get together once a week. They wear red hats and play cards.
That's what I guessed.
I thought it
So-
might be something like political or something.
Yeah, I
Nope.
was thinking that as well. Yeah, something MAGA.
Yeah. Oh, Noddy, talking about
Hmm?
Cuba, and that brings up your favourite Latin freedom fighter.
Trudeau.
Friend, no, friend. Well, possibly related. Friend of mine, his parents had been so
Mm.
enamoured by this guy that
Mm.
they'd named my friend Shay.
Mm.
As soon as he was old enough to find out what Che Guevara was actually like, he
Oh.
waited until he was old enough to have his name changed.
Oh, good for
Mhm.
him.
Now called Brian.
Good for him. Yes, I wouldn't
Fair
want to be
Like
point.
Brian.
Always look on.
I,
the
I feel sorry for all the
bright
kids in the world
side.
named Fidel, because that's
Ouch.
the name that's got a taint.
Or Adolf.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Or Saddam.
Yeah.
I'm
So
surprised
you're getting a
about
lot
that.
of in the UK and in Europe. You're getting
Mm.
a lot of people converting to Islam, right? Probably
Too
enforced,
many.
right?
Cough. Yeah.
What,
Cough,
what,
cough, yes, Starmer.
what's making me laugh
Mm.
is
Have a
that-
cake.
is
Have a
you'll have a
cake.
Spanish guy being
Mhm.
converted to Islam whose name is Jesus.
Yeah. Somehow
Yeah.
I feel he changed his name to Muhammad instantly.
You forget that
Noticing all the videos.
that Spain had
all
been
the videos
conquered
we
by Islam by once upon a time, so it's
Mm.
not that big a stretch.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
All the videos we're getting of these people, these young men who are converting to Islam. They're the guys who did never get laid. Let's face it.
Yeah. No,
The
I
only
just
reason
don't
they're
understand.
converting to Islam is because they'll be given a wife.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you do have some reformers in the Islam faith, but they have an uphill battle. A very uphill
No,
battle.
they get killed.
Yeah. Shit. They
Yeah,
either
it's
have to
uphill because
hide
they're
to do
running.
it, or they get, or they get killed. But it's like it does. It's time for that religion to be reformed because it's
It's
very
never going to happen. Yeah,
I know.
we can say this to a blueface. It's never going to happen, unfortunately.
But we
Yeah.
do know how to do it. I believe, Nomad, you came up with a wonderful idea of how to deal with Islam. I believe it was B-52's wingtip to wingtip. Wasn't that the term?
Here
Oh,
comes
so
the
it's a bit
sun.
like- it's about-
Doo-doo-doo.
It's a
Here
bit like how we
comes
would stop the boats
sun.
crossing and playing battleships.
No, I've got a better way. We use America's greatest weapon. We send Katy Perry and Space Command after them.
Oh God.
Oh my God! Did you see that about the Kate
Yeah,
Perry
yeah.
thing?
She's a
Fucking
new space
great.
marine, is she?
Yeah.
On Twitter, somebody had quote tweeted or they posted her picture from the thing, and they called her an astronaut. And I'm like, 10 minutes in space doesn't make you an astronaut; it makes you a tourist.
I've
Yep.
noticed the only one in that group who was trying to claim to be an astronaut is the black one.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I have to say, Russell Brand dodged a bullet with her, didn't he?
Well, no, she Katy Perry. To give her credit, she's not claiming to be an astronaut. It's this black woman, and I forget her name.
I didn't watch it because it was just
But
ridiculous.
she's actually claiming what she did is just the same as when Alan Shepard walked on the moon.
Mm.
Oh Lord.
No, it's not. They didn't pilot the thing. They didn't.
No.
They didn't
Nope.
gear it for re-entry or anything. It
No, so
basically,
ground control.
They were
It was-
cargo.
Yeah.
well, look. If
I'm
they go into space, that would be one thing. But they actually didn't make it into space.
No.
No, they went
And
into
that's
space.
and that's what NASA has come back and said. Look, we will if you go
Technically,
high
they
enough,
were in-
they will call you an astronaut. But they weren't high enough.
Well, as far as
technically,
I'm
they were
concerned,
in-
when
they were in
Shepard's more an
lower
astronaut, they
orbit,
are.
which is just on the edge of space, which isn't nearly as high as William Shatner went.
As
No.
I say, William Shatner's more of an astronaut than those bunch of losers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Call him
I'd like to get a
astronaut.
little bit tinfoil hat now, if it's okay. Is it all right to go tinfoil hat?
Sure.
Go
Yeah,
right
no,
ahead.
no. Excellent. You know that whole thing was a load of rubbish, don't you? I am trying to modify
What
my
road?
word here. Did you not see the whole thing of them going into air quotes the upper atmosphere and coming down? Did you not see the pod? There was no scoring on it whatsoever that there should have been. There was nothing about it. It literally looked like a blow-up toy from the bloody B&Q down the road.
There are people claiming that it was all done in CGI.
Because all the pods, all the pods in the during the Apollo missions, when they all came back, they're all burnt black as toast.
Do you know what I would have done?
I haven't finished yet, mate. I will come back to you. I promise you.
Okay, Mum.
Thank you.
Dad.
You don't know if you noticed they've actually almost always dropped them in the sea, but this time it's in the middle of the freaking desert. I don't know. Photo op. All yours, Batman.
Well, first of all, I believe the pod. I mean, it's similar to the one Shatley used, and that didn't have any scoring when it came down. It came down on dry land, but he actually did get into space. There's documented proof of that. It's designed that way. But if I'd been in charge of the ground crew when they came down, there would have been nobody around at first, right? Remember, they landed in the desert, and I would have had a bunch of actors on horseback wearing a very recognizable black leather armor on top of purple shirts and gorilla masks right down.
You're going to talk about the Planet of the Apes.
They would have shit themselves. Let's be honest.
They would, but that would have been funnier. No, it's just that whole thing was stupid. Like the whole thing with them, they opened the door and then they suddenly closed it, and then Bezos came up and opened the door for them. Yeah, that was such an obvious photo shoot. It was a freaking joke.
I didn't watch it anyway, so there you go.
It was a PR stunt. I didn't watch it.
So it sounds like I didn't miss much anyway.
You didn't, mate.
I didn't know what had happened until next morning on Twitter.
Yeah, I didn't either.
What makes me laugh about celebrities isn't so much the celebrities as the fan bases who hang on their every word. I mean, these are people whose adult working life involves doing what we used to do as children and playing Let's Pretend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they act infantilized because most of them are infantilized by the job they do.
The adult pretenders, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
What actors are.
Yeah, let's pretend and dress up.
Well, let's be honest. If any of us had the money to buy our way into one of those things, let's be honest, how many wouldn't take it?
Oh, I'd take it.
See?
My mom would get pissed off with me if I didn't take her with me.
Yeah, if you took me with you, you wouldn't be bringing us back.
I wouldn't take Jenson with me because he'd be too tempted to open the freaking door and let the air in.
That's what amazes me about Katy Perry's I'm amazed one of them didn't open the hatch to take a walk outside.
Jenson, you think your four-armed God Emperor will save you?
He will. Hey, you lot, you're screwed. I'm fine, buddy.
You notice how the media is trying to distract us at the moment with these structures underneath the pyramids and UAPs. How many years is it now since they've been saying that they're going to disclose everything about the UFOs and that?
They never will.
But first of all, can we all agree that renaming a UFO to a UAP was a stupid fucking idea?
Yeah.
Actually, it's a more accurate one because unidentified aerial
phenomena. Yes, I agree.
I know what it stands for. It's just stupid because you look at it and it's UAP.
Yeah.
It's just
UFO. Come on, just go back to UFO. Unidentified flying object. Okay, cool. That works for me. It flies. We have no clue what it is. We can't identify it. There you go.
A lot of them aren't objects. Yeah, tricks of the light.
Like Batman.
But still, it's a much better name than UAP.
But
even a light film or something like that, even an energy thing has to be bounced off some kind of object. So calling it an object is still accurate. I know you are. And I'm talking over you.
If they'd originally been called UAPs, and the changes of the UFOs, you'd be having the exact same argument now as
No.
about that as you are now.
No.
Yeah, because you'd be used to UAP and UFO. That sounds stupid.
No,
because UFO's easier to say than UAP.
well, it's also it would also be more accurate. How many of
OAP?
these things have been actual
I think-
objects, but not a phenomenon? They're an object that's actually flying. It's just misidentified.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's like I had somebody like misunderstand me like years ago when I said, I do know, I do kind of subscribe to the UFO thing, and they're like, you're one of those nuts. I said, no, let me explain. You would have to be extremely close-minded and ignorant to think that we're the only sentient life forms in an
Yeah, I was
entire
gonna say
fucking
that.
universe. Okay? You can't tell me we're the only intelligent life in the universe,
Yeah.
because that is just
Arrogant.
that's mathematically incorrect.
Yeah.
May I just butt in for one moment? Why are you accusing humans of being intelligent?
Well, some are, some
Okay.
aren't.
All right, I'll accept some. Sorry to interrupt. Please
They're
do
on
carry on.
in here.
No, but
You know-
what you only got to know, you're gonna know just know the lack of intelligence. Just look at our bloody prime minister. There you go. There's lack of intelligence
We've
there.
got a prime minister.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, not a very good one.
I mean,
Didn't
it's
say
like,
it was a very good one. We do have one. He's just not a very good
Yeah.
one.
I mean, it's like we're fairly. If you look at our history and you look at what the archaeologists and anthropologists have discovered, we're relatively young in terms of years. So would it be even that hard to think that there are civilizations in the universe that are older and more advanced than us?
Possibly,
yeah.
but apparently the best answer to the Fermi paradox is
Mhm.
that we're the first.
Hmm.
Because otherwise, if like there were other advanced civilizations out there that have been out there for, let's say, a few million years, right?
Mhm.
There would be some signals that would reach us.
Yeah,
There
but
have
do
been no
we have
signals.
do we have the technological ability to receive those signals
do
and
now.
interpret them
God.
properly?
We
So
do
Why
know.
would you be interested
We-
in
we-
us?
we-
Have they
we-
seen
we
us?
we might not be able to interpret them, but we'd be able to tell if they were artificial.
And
Yeah.
how do you know that the air quotes big blorp isn't a signal?
I mean,
I
it's
trust the
people-
scientists.
now,
Yeah,
Scientists.
Which scientists are we talking about? Real scientists or the one who thought trust the science when it came to the COVID epidemic?
No, I
That's
said
what
I said scientists, not media hype.
Oh, well, I
Sorry.
said scientists. I said real scientists and
I
Mhm.
said scientists,
David
not media
and
hype.
Fauci for
Yeah,
scientists.
I said scientists, not media hype.
I mean, in terms of other life forms in the universe, I don't, I know that we're not I know, even though there's not empirical proof that anybody wants to own up to, I know we're not the only sentient life forms in the universe, because, like I
Agree.
said, that's mathematically impossible.
Mhm.
However, do I believe what comes out of the mouth of these people in the Ancient Aliens TV show that think we're a bunch of dumb fucks that got to be taught everything from people
Nah.
from outer space? No.
Nah,
No, I
totally
mean,
know,
agree with that.
yeah.
totally
Look at
agree.
when white people landed in primitive places. We
Mhm.
didn't teach them how to build things, did we?
No.
Yeah. Aliens would be the same.
Exactly. I mean, it's like with the whole. I remember watching one episode, sitting downstairs with my parents. We're watching one episode of Ancient Aliens. It was the one about the pyramids. Okay. And my dad wasn't saying anything, and my mom was like, "Well, the aliens could have helped." I said, "Mom, if you've watched other documentaries, they're called ramps.
Well, that's when you know
know-
if it's alien. Look for the Stargate. It might be buried somewhere. Then you'll know.
Yeah,
I
you're
was
right,
going to
buddy.
say, are you saying the Goa'uld are not real?
Yeah.
They were ramps.
Look for the
They
shepherd
were
eye.
ramps. They were seriously, Maddie. You're right. You are right. They were ramps. They were lubricated with sand, and I'm not being sarcastic. They literally were.
Yeah.
That'll be a first.
It to think that that's what gets me about the show. It's, could this have happened without the use of aliens? Well, what was it? What do they call them? Ancient alien philosophers or theorists think, no, we couldn't have built this shit
They're not
without the use of.
theorists.
We're not dumb fucks.
Yeah, and they're
They
not
don't
theorists.
think we are.
Given an opportunity when presented with a problem, most humans will find a practical solution.
Yes.
That's lubrication and lots of slaves. Slave
That's
labor.
humanity's thing. It's adaptability.
Mhm.
I hate it when they call it the ancient alien theories because it's not a theory. It's barely even a hypothesis. A theory is an accepted scientific model that works and it can be used to create accurate predictions
Yeah.
Dude,
on
it's gas.
how a phenomenon will behave. Yeah, like
Yeah.
gravity.
Yeah.
A
They use-
hypothesis is something that will be, if it's proven, will become a theory.
Yeah. I mean, they use the word loosely. And I mean, it's like,
Mhm.
I've watched 2 or 3 of these episodes with my parents before my father passed away, and then a couple with my mom. And it's the same shit over and over again. And it's like, no, we're not stupid idiots that didn't know how to do shit until somebody landed from outer space and went, this is how you do it. Oh, no.
The real problem
I'm
that I
gonna have to
have
drop
with
it.
the whole
Guys, I'm going to have to drop out because I'm going to do the live stream in about 9 o'clock. So,
All right, mate,
thank
you look
you. I'll
after it.
take you.
Have a good
All
one.
right.
Later, Sixer.
You take
Bye-bye.
care. I'm going to get ready for the stream. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Like,
My real problem
Oh,
with the ancient aliens, right, isn't
Mm-hmm.
the fact that they do it. It's that they put it on the History Channel. That's my real problem.
Yeah.
the History Channel is no longer the History Channel.
No.
Well,
What makes me
according-
laugh is they go further. They say that human beings didn't originate on Earth. We originated on Mars and came.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
we are genetically and biologically the same as every other life form on the Earth, and
No, it's
chemically.
like it just fucking kills me when they do shit like that. And then they piss. According to my mom, they had one episode where they pissed off the entire Christian community because they were trying to prove that Jesus Christ was an alien.
Wow.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was because I mean he had Egyptian, he had Egyptian citizenship.
From outer space is what I meant.
Yeah, that's the
I know what
point.
you meant. I'm just being sarcastic.
Yeah.
The one
When
that
mom
makes
told
me,
me that, I'm like, you're freaking kidding me. She went, no, they tried to sit there and prove that Jesus Christ came from outer space. I'm like, oh, good
Well,
lord.
I'm going to enjoy this moment. You could say technically he was. After all, the guy walked on freaking water. No offense, but humans generally don't do that for very long. He
Yeah,
apparently got away with it.
yeah, but nobody saw him on the shores of Galilee, fastening on the giant fucking stilts. Before.
That's true. That is true.
One that gets me is the Silurian hypothesis.
Oh,
That
Oh,
during the
God.
age of the dinosaurs, there was a race of intelligent dinosaurs who had a civilization comparable to ours. No, there wasn't.
oh,
It's
good
provable that it wasn't. People say, "Oh, a week will there be nothing left of us?" Yes, there will. We will be ridiculously overrepresented in the fossil record.
Mm-hmm.
So will our food animals.
Yeah.
And if there was an ancient dinosaur civilization that was comparable to our civilization now, the species that created that civilization would also be ridiculously overrepresented in the fossil record, and so would their food animals. They're not.
Yeah. Well, it's just, I can see to a point where some things that are unexplained, you're trying to fill the gaps, but at least sound intelligent about it.
Yeah.
Everything is. I'm not saying it's aliens, but dude, just knock it off. Keep your finger out of the electrical socket. Stop sticking in the electrical plugs, because I mean, there are some episodes where I'm looking at his hair and it's shooting out all over the place. My mom cracks up laughing when I go, "Well, I see he's been playing with power lines again."
The last time I watched one of those History Channel documentaries on YouTube, it was so ridiculous. All I could hear was Beaker from the fucking Muppet Show.
I liked Beaker. Beaker was cool.
Yeah, I think Baker was more intelligent than Bunsen because he knew when the hell to duck.
That's also true.
Yeah, but he was always the one who got hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the downside, but
I wonder how many of those meeps were actually what the fuck?
I reckon 99%. Let's be honest.
Or you want me to do what? What the hell?
I'm not
You
getting
first,
paid enough for this.
It
Right.
you
wasn't,
first, motherfucker.
he wasn't there because he was getting paid. He was there because Bunsen had his family as hostages.
No, I
The
think
first
That is
document-
believable.
actually, I
the
think
first on-camera documented abuse of an intern.
I think what you're wrong there, Nomad. I think he was there because it was either that or the electric chair.
And you didn't want to look like the guy from Ancient Aliens again.
Beaker was actually a mass murderer.
Look,
Now
I think
we
after
know.
about 3 seasons of the Muppet Show, Beaker was ready to take that electric chair. I'm just
That's fair.
So,
Ugh.
anyway, this
Go on.
this is just a chat stream. So for people who
What?
don't know, and the only reason I'm doing this on Thursday is because I took today off. And why did I take today off? I took today off because
Yeah, that's what we're wondering.
because I was supposed to be getting permanent crowns fitted on my tooth.
Oh,
Ouch.
And
Oh,
well, it's
what kind?
interesting.
Hold on. What kind? The pointy ones or the ones more like the British Crown?
No,
I'm surprised you didn't say that which tooth. Then you remembered it's MC, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he says tooth, we think Stonehenge.
Hey, I thought the British were the ones with bad teeth.
so now he's
We're
so now that Nomad has been crowned, he has to look at himself in the mirror every morning and go, "Good morning, Your Majesty. Now where the fuck is my coffee?"
Well,
Yeah, that's. I mean, present company accepted more than likely, but Americans seem to be grossly over obsessed with teeth. I mean,
They do.
from what I've heard, we have always had better dental health in the UK and in Europe than the United States has ever had. But Americans have tend to have, especially the ones who can afford it, have better looking teeth.
do you realize that we were founded by George Washington?
Yeah, Mr. Wooden Tooth. I know.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. So, does this explain the tooth obsession to you guys a little bit?
Yeah,
That might be why they've got it. Sorry, Batman. Please carry on.
George Washington, the original wooden top.
And he did not have wooden teeth. All right, he did have dentures, but they were not actually wooden.
No, it was his jaw that was wooden.
There's actually rumours that he actually, and again, rumours, I want that clear. There's rumours that he actually had a lot of his teeth were actually ripped out of slaves and put into the dentures. How true that is, I know not.
Probably very untrue because teeth rot the same as any other organic matter.
I know, but the point, if you nick them from a youngster, they ain't rotted yet.
Yeah, but they will very quickly.
The studies that
nice
they've
set of
done.
teeth. Where'd you get them from? Zimbabwe, the Ivory Coast, the Congo.
You didn't need to do that because you had plenty of dead people to pull them from. Okay, and in fact, that's one of the things that at that time frame that they used. The people who talk about how they had ivory. Ivory was very rarely used, all right, and very extraordinarily expensive. So most of the quote unquote dentures at the time were from cadavers that had been pulled from cadavers.
Okay.
I had them made from ceramics.
Oh, I'm looking at Twitter, and the first pictures of the female Silver Surfer have landed on Twitter.
Oh dear.
They've got a female Silver Surfer.
Yes, and I am highly unimpressed.
Gotta go after Nolan Rand one more time, huh?
Oh, I just
hey, just be thankful it's not trans.
Here's the one thing that I've been seeing going around for the past couple of days. They have actually casted the actress for Toph for the live action Atla, and she has said in an interview that she is going to make Toph more feminine.
Who?
Toph, the Earthbender in Avatar: The Last Earthbender.
Oh, right. I know nothing about that.
Same. Sorry.
Yeah, but that whole Fantastic Four first steps there, they pulled a bait and switch. It's, I mean, the angry looking trans woman who's playing the Invisible Woman. has turned around and says she's not going to be playing her like she was in the comics where she was a doormat in the 60s. She never was a doormat, and yeah, she's going to be a leader and all that. And apparently the film is basically she's going to be the main character, which it's the Fantastic Four. You don't have a main character.
No.
Well, you do. You have the entire group as the main character.
Yeah.
It's,
But you don't have one single solitary character that stands out above the rest. Yeah. I just don't,
Go
the way
ahead.
they keep screwing shit up is just it's just whenever they come out with something new, the question isn't going to be good. It's how are they going to screw this up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, have you heard Netflix's Chronicles of Narnia?
God.
Oh,
Oh no, the female lion. Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking what you call her? Kramer versus Kramer.
No, okay, you lost me there.
Oh,
Sorry.
what do you call the actress from that? Meryl Streep.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
She's going to be voicing Aslan. Yeah, that's not. They don't care
that's
anymore.
going to piss the Christians off for a start.
They don't care anymore. My mom mentioned the other day that she saw that there was a third season on Prime for the Wheel of Prime, and my mom read all the books because I bought her the first few. She bought the rest of the series. She watched season 1. She was not happy. I think she saw season 2 and wasn't happy, and she mentioned there's season 3. I said, "Are you going to watch it?" She goes, "No, because I don't want to get aggravated."
I stopped at the end of season 1.
I never read any of it, so hey.
I'm actually quite surprised that they didn't turn Egwene into the fucking into the Dragon Reborn.
I just I get ideologically why they're doing. And then there's the other part of me that just says, if you don't like the source material, just don't fuck it up. Don't do it.
Write your own shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, write your own stuff. It's like they did the same thing with the rings of Prime. It's like, no, I said it right. It was not the Rings of Power, it's the Rings of Prime. It's like I watched the whole thing from the deal up until the actual premiere, and I never watched the show because I knew by following it in its development it was going to be shit.
Well, with the Afro-Caribbean halflings.
The estate told them they couldn't use anything from the Silmarillion, that everything that they were going to use for the show had to come from the appendices in the back of the Lord of the Rings book. To me, if I was pitching it from Amazon's point of view, all right, I would have said, if we can't use the Silmarillion, then the deal is off. But, that's just me, because if I'm going to do something second age Tolkien, I want to do it as accurately as possible, which means I need access to the Silmarillion.
That's you, though.
Okay? I would have looked at them and said, so I can't use anything but the appendices in the back of the Lord of the Rings. Exactly. Okay, well, deal's off. Sorry.
Okay, so let's ask a question. Let's ask a question about all this, because there's a real problem here that they don't understand. Let's be perfectly frank. Why are they actually doing this? They're not doing it to tell a story. They're not doing it to
push an agenda.
They're doing it to push an agenda for first and foremost, and then secondly, the second reason they're doing it is to quote unquote make money, because they're selling it to make money. Okay,
but they're not selling it. That's the thing.
But see, they did for so long. They have.
Yeah.
They have gotten away with the the innuendo stuff that they've been doing for decades.
Yeah. The problem with the Tolkien estate is there was some integrity there as long as Christopher drew breath. Once Christopher Tolkien died, his siblings didn't care. They just want money.
If I'd have been in charge of it, Netflix approached me, I would have said, yeah, fair enough. But I want script approval and total control over it.
Yeah.
They probably did, but then money was thrown at them until they went, I'm going to do
No, I would want it to be done correctly.
I know that's the problem. It's the difference between a fan and a person who wants money.
Actually, I would have said, yeah, you can only have it if Steve Jackson's put in charge.
To me, there needs to be a whole new job created in Hollywood. Okay. And the
Mhm.
title is simply called Canon Accurist. In other words, you hire this person to read the material about the movie that you're going to adapt it to.
Mm-hmm.
And they are on the set and have complete control over what happens. So whenever somebody's going to go off canon, you walk over to the person, smack them with a book, and go, "That's wrong."
Well, I'm actually going to reprise something Oz has just said. That's why Cavell got booted from The Witcher. He wanted to stick to law. Yet they should have actually had him in charge of the law
Yes.
because that man knew. Okay, he was that character. There's no
He was.
two in it.
It wouldn't
Well, he
surprise
played all
me.
the games and read all the books.
Yeah,
It wouldn't surprise me if that's part of the reason why he got booted from Superman.
it
I mean,
was.
Here's a little known fact about Ortega and her Wednesday role.
Mhm.
That one episode where she's standing outside the shop and she saw the black dress for the ball.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They wanted to direct Ortega as Wednesday to act like a giddy, excited schoolgirl upon seeing and falling in love with the dress. And Jenna Ortega looked at the director and said Wednesday would not do that.
No.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I find it funny how she was saying that Rachel Zegler was the wrong choice for Snow White, but
Mhm.
apparently she's replacing her.
I just don't get it.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's Jenna Ortega being a hypocrite if that's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
That is
okay,
if that's true.
you could have actually, depending upon how you wrote that, you could have actually incorporated that within it because let's be honest, Wednesday has an outer portrayal when people are around. If you wanted her to sit up there and be happily giddy, it had to be in a situation where nobody was around and she showed a little bit of her own self,
I disagree.
right? I
No,
said
she's
it.
not. That was a rumor. She's not replacing Zegler as
Yeah.
the new Snow White. So,
So
no, she's not.
it's
No
just
good.
it's
No
just
good.
it's not. The thing is, it's exactly like Maddie said in the sense of you're using characters that have already established themselves, and the reason that have already been established, and they have a lore with them, and the reason you're doing that, the reason the the motion picture people, all right, including the television people, the reason they want to do that is because it already has an established fan base.
There's another
Yeah.
reason.
Well, no, because
And
that's
it
the
goes-
reason they did. But that's the
there is
reason
another
they did
reason.
it.
And it
Yeah.
goes in. There's another reason, and it goes into their agenda. They're picking things like Snow White, Tolkien, and other stuff, which is part of our culture, in an attempt to dilute and destroy Western culture.
I mean, look at the newest back and forth banter because when you've got both sides of the Harry Potter coin uniting because they're going to make a Harry Potter TV show, and now Snape's been cast and it's a black dude.
Yeah.
Okay, there is two glaring things that's wrong with that particular picture. There are several examples in all of the novels that describe him as white.
Yeah. Little things like
Okay?
that.
And two, here's the second one. It changes the dynamic when Harry peers into Snape's mind and sees that his father was bullying Snape. Are
Yep.
people going to see his father as a bully, or are they going to see him as a racist now that Snape is black?
That's the plan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we got the same thing with the gunslinger from the Dark Tower, where they cast Idris Elba as Roland.
Yeah. Well, see, the difference between
all the way through the gunslinger thing, he's described as a white man. In fact, in interviews, Stephen King said when he was writing the gunslinger, he pictured Clint Eastwood.
Makes
Then
sense.
when the film comes on, goes, oh yeah, Idris Elba's the perfect choice because he's just what I pictured, you lying bastard.
Well, the difference between the gunslinger in the Harry Potter thing is Stephen was very vocal about his choices. J.K. Rowling has not made any statement whatsoever about the casting choice for Snape. She hasn't come out pro or against.
I don't think she cares anymore. She's got her money and that's it. You know, she didn't do what they want with this stuff.
Yeah.
That's the impression I get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's just tired of the fight.
No matter which way it rolls, she's going to get paid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People were going, we can't believe that Rowling signed off on this. She hasn't. I have not been able to find a single piece of evidence saying that she has endorsed the casting choice. Not a peep.
Well, she no
Because
longer.
I'm sure if she endorsed it or was against it, she would have already said something.
Right, but
I
once
don't know,
again,
it's not like she says her mind now, does it? You know,
well,
she's such a wallflower.
Well, she you say that, but the reality is she is a wallflower. She doesn't like the spotlight when it really comes down hard on her, and she doesn't. Which is now she took up the issue of the initial comment with women, right, where she sat up there and tried to defend that. But if you noticed, her responses to that entire discussion have become fewer and fewer and fewer because they have beaten her down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she hasn't changed. But she hasn't changed her stance. The reason that she came out the way she did was she herself was a victim of, a sexual assault.
Right.
For being more PC about saying that, which is why she was a firm advocate about women's centers in the UK only admitting biological women, because if you've been through that, if you've been through a sexual assault, the last thing you want to do is be in a safe space like a women's shelter sharing it with somebody who's biologically male.
Fun.
Oh yeah, and that's something that's making me chortle at the moment. The Supreme Court in the UK has decreed that by law trans women are men.
Yeah.
And even now, they're still doing their nut on Twitter about it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
That's a great.
Just remember that.
You got a great voice for that, Maddie. You really do.
What was that?
The joke I sent you, you Batman, and to Nomad.
No, what Nomad said.
Oh, you didn't hear her.
Oh, I did.
It was perfectly laid out.
Yes.
I mean, it's because it's like we know transsexuals, we know level-headed transsexuals, and what do they all say that when, especially the male to female transsexuals that we know, what do they say? We are biologically male. That is something that we cannot change about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one yes, a woman can have a penis, and somebody posted underneath it, yeah, but only if she's getting it off her boyfriend.
1 sec, Maddie, I sent you a thing in Discord. It's for X. I think you may. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm reading it now. I love it. I love it. I love it.
It is absolutely perfect, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is absolutely fucking perfect. It is absolutely fucking perfect. All these little crybabies that are crying for fucking attention that didn't get enough attention from their damn parents as children are having utter fucking meltdowns. You know, to paraphrase a movie phrase, there are millions of voices crying out in agony right now.
It would be with a good kick. Oz, check your Discord DMs. I think you'll appreciate it as well, mate.
But this has been a long time coming, and it started over in your country. Because, I mean, it's like, whenever something like this comes on the news with my mom and I, when we're watching the news during dinner, she'll say something. And I told her one time, I said, well, you've got to understand, if there's two groups of LGBT people, and she'll look at me, I said, there are the people that you see in the news every day, raising hell, being activists, and looking utterly, completely stupid and outrageous. I said, and then there are the other ones that are trying to blend into society, that are yelling at the flamboyant ones going, will you shut the fuck up? You're screwing it up for the rest of us.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's already too late for them.
Yeah, he's wrong. You're not wrong there, man. You're not wrong.
Yeah, but Yeah, and of course they're killing whole entertainment genres without even realizing it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep. They are.
because it's bled over into so many things for a variety of reasons. You know, I just
I mean, it's like you can't have a show without one gay person or one trans person or one black person or mostly black people with one or two white people. It can't be, it can't be evenly balanced. But if you have somebody from LGBT in a show or a movie, they have to be flamboyantly so, which is like,
yeah.
Not everybody from that community acts that way.
No. Just look at Batman.
You know, they just rely on they as much as they hate stereotypes, that's all they're doing is pushing the stereotypes because they don't know how to write them any other way.
Yeah, I agree. He obviously wasn't listening because there's no way I was going to get away with that line under normal circumstances. He was not going to let that go.
Yeah, it's
Sorry, did you say something?
but that goes to something else though too, which is, let's be perfectly frank. In order to be a decent writer, everyone talks about.
I can't be frank. I don't have the plumbing.
You can't. In order to be a decent writer, okay, talent exists. Now, how talented you are, however, isn't the determining factor of whether or not your writing is good. You have to be disciplined. You have to be disciplined to continue the consistency, right? When you're writing,
it's not only that. It's not only that. I mean, from because to be a writer, yes, the talent has to be there. The imagination has to be there. Okay, the desire to write has to be there. But the other thing that has to be present in order for a writer to go from being, oh yeah, just another writer, to being a good writer is knowing the fact that you have to put in the work. You have to read other people's works. You have to study their works for the sentence structure, for how plot develops, for when the climax of the story happens and the resolution and all that stuff. Then you have to create your own writing style and tell your stories, but you cannot do this, especially from any kind of fiction sense, without doing research. That is where the long-standing joke from mystery writers comes from, that I hope the CIA and FBI aren't watching my search history, otherwise I'm going to be in trouble, because you can't write a combat scene without either researching about combat, watching videos about combat,
or experiencing
or finding veterans if you haven't experienced it, like me.
Yeah.
Or finding veterans that, you have befriended to go, hey, look, I wrote this scene in my book. Would you mind reading this over and letting me know if it's accurate? And if it's not, what do I need to change?
Agreed. And hey, Yuki, I'm not the youngest here now.
Hello, Scouser.
Because it's even in fiction, things have to be believable.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're going to suspend
that takes not only research, but if you haven't been there and experienced it, talking to people who have. Because I have a story about siblings. I'm an only kid. I read the passages to my husband, who had a sister, God rest her soul, and still two brothers. And I said, let me read this to you and you tell me what you think. So I read the passage and he said, that sounds more boyfriend and girlfriend than brother and sister. And let me tell you why. Okay, I'm all ears.
You were way off.
Because as an only kid, I don't have that experience. So I don't have that perception. I don't know what it's like to be siblings or what a sibling rivalry is, because I haven't experienced it. I've witnessed it with friends that have siblings, but it's not the same thing as having siblings and being in the thick of a sibling rivalry.
Have you ever just punched somebody in the face randomly?
That's just called school.
I'm saying nothing. I'm saying nothing.
I remember one time, years back, my stepbrother was being an annoying little shit, so I slapped him But somehow when I slapped him, he sort of spun around and ended up falling down the stairs.
Oh God.
Was that because you also pushed him?
I wish.
Yeah,
like,
no. Tell the truth. You wish the stairs hadn't been there.
Yeah, I was
Well,
shooting myself at first, thinking, "Oh fuck, my mum and stepdad's gonna kill me."
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
there,
it's totally worth it.
there are things you learn when you start, when you write a book and you set down the path to writing a book. Because my first book that I self-published was about police officers. It was a supernatural mystery, and I had a friend of mine at the time that had retired from the force, from the police force, and I said, I'm going to have the FBI come in. She goes, okay, let me explain to you the relationship between police officers and the FBI. I said, okay, we fucking hate them.
Yep.
Because they come in, take charge of everything, don't tell us what they're doing, and if they screw up, they blame us.
Yes.
And if if the regular cops are the ones who break the case, the FBI take the credit.
Of course.
She told me all that, and I'm like, okay. So as I wrote the story, I would tell her about the interaction. She goes, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. You're gonna have to change that though. I went, okay. So it's a learning process. With every book, it's a learning process.
Yeah, you see, the cop shows back in the 70s, 60s, and possibly even into the 80s used to get that right. You know why?
Go on.
They had technical advisors who were actually serving police officers or FBI officers.
Makes sense.
That's
Maddie,
why Stargate was so good. They had their technical advisors were serving Air Force officers.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense as to like with Full Metal Jacket because Ali Ernie, the gunnery sergeant,
was a gunnery sergeant.
Originally he was meant to be he was just meant to be an advisor, but he just improved so well that like fuck it, you're hired.
Yeah. Right, Maddie, have you ever done role play? Just out of interest.
Yeah, I've played role playing games. I've done.
Okay, I was just wondering because it did sound like you had, because a lot of things you said is how a lot of refs I know and me, to be honest, also think. And your comment about if the government ever actually look at my search thing, I am so screwed.
Yep,
and that is so true.
With the first book I wrote, I literally did Google searches on, what was it? Bleeding rates on neck wounds.
Nice.
Lividity, decomposition, and after about the 5th time I searched something about death, dying, and killing, I'm like, oh my god, I hope nobody's watching my search it's fucking history because I'm gonna be in trouble. Holy shit, because you're researching the same thing dumb people research when they're actually going to kill people. But in my response, like, okay, if it's like this, what color is the blood going to be? If his throat is slit and he's hanging from a closet and he's been there for a while, what's it going to look like? Okay, that's what I got to research.
blackish.
Okay, are they going to be able to move the body if she's discovered it after this certain time? Okay, I've got to look this up too, so I'm doing
Just
all this.
put in brackets, don't worry, FBI, I'm just writing a book.
By the way, Maddie, if you ever want a suggestion, if you're ever going to do something like this, I do know how to bury a body so as it won't be found without major assistance. Okay.
I know how to get rid of a body and it'll never be found.
I was like,
All you need is
I wrote my first novel that I self-published when I was married to my second husband, and I was doing a challenge on the internet from a website that's called NaNoWriMo.org, and it's short for National Novel Writing Month. Okay. The website is free to register, and they challenge you to write a 50,000 word novel in 30 days, and this is in the month of November.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the book came about. Now, after those 30 days, when I met the goal, I obviously went back and reread it and did editing because your first draft is never perfect.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there were still questions and stuff that I had to ask. And I did have, some regular customers coming into the convenience store at the time that were former military as I was reading the book, because the person who's being stalked, I believe it was her cousin, that was a former Marine. So, and I knew there was a Marine that would come in the store, and I asked him, I said, can you read this passage for me and let me know if this is how you would react if you were protecting one of your family members that you knew was being stalked by somebody that was a known murderer? He goes, all right, cool. And he's reading through the dialogue, and he goes, first of all, there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. I went, okay, so I noted that down. He goes, the only time in Marine history where you would label a Marine an ex-Marine is if they were dishonorably discharged. Oh, he goes, yes. Remember, once a Marine, always a Marine. Doesn't matter if we're active duty or not. I went, got it. Okay. So when he finished reading the passage, all he did was 2 or 3 tweaks. He goes, your brain is there strategically, but there were a couple of things I needed to fix. I said, cool, I'm all ears. You know. And what I see from a lot of these people nowadays that write, whether it be comic books or actual novels and stuff, is they can't take constructive criticism.
Oh no, that's very true. Yeah,
and you know, in my philosophy is when you create something, whether it's written, whether it's art, whether it's music, and you put it out there, it's gonna be scrutinized. You're going to have people that love it, obviously. You're going to have people that critique it. If you're not ready for the critique, and I'm not talking about critique like somebody's looking at a picture and going, that fucking sucks. To me, that's not criticism. That's just you not liking something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to set yourself up for the constructive criticism, and you have to learn from it. Not automatically be in a defensive stance going, well, if you don't like it, fine, you don't have to read it. No. Obviously, if they're criticizing you constructively, they found things that you can improve upon, and that's how you perfect your craft. I mean, if you dismiss every bit of constructive criticism, you're not going to grow as an author, an artist, a musician. You're going to be stagnant, and people are eventually going to be turned off by what you create because it's just going to be the same stuff over and over again.
Oh, you mean like Marvel and DC Comics?
Uh-huh.
Not wrong.
Yeah, I mean Marvel Comics. They're giving Mary Jane superpowers. She's got jackpot powers, whatever that is.
Lord.
Jackpot
it gets better.
powers.
DC Comics. Lois Lane. Because of the depowered storyline where all the heroes got the powers back eventually, she's got Kryptonian powers now.
Yeah, the more I see about mainstream comics and the more I see with these mainstream movies and stuff, it reminds me of when we were kids playing pretend with our friends and we were about to lose an imaginary battle, and all of a sudden we created a whole new power we didn't have before so we could have an edge and win the battle. You know, that's just what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Or like when you'd be playing armor with your friends with toy guns and like, no, I shot you first.
Well, and I think
well, your gun jammed.
I mean,
yeah.
But to be honest, you don't see that anymore. And where you really see that comment that Matt just made is if you watch the original Blade Runner, where Rutger Hauer dies right at the end. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it wasn't a matter of this guy winning. It's the other guy he expired. It just happened at that time.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of knew that was going to happen at some point. You didn't know when it was or how close it was or anything else for the character. All right.
Yeah.
And that's but right there, the quote unquote hero of the story. The hero of the story didn't win. All right. No. He survived, granted. Okay. But he didn't win. So you either have to do, if you're going to do it right, they have to overcome their own failings, or you have to write it in such a way that they survive, but it's not of their doing. That's the and that's why everybody loved Blade Runner, right? That's why everybody loved it. Okay, because you rarely see that actually portrayed really well on screen.
Yeah,
it's because it was a realistic character.
Yeah.
They all were. Even the replicants were realistic characters.
I liked Roy Batty. He was cool.
You liked who?
Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer's character.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
they don't write stories like that anymore because they're too
No.
busy trying to push some sort of agenda, and it's like,
Because the people
and
who have gotten into those jobs can't write.
well,
That's
that
also
that
fair.
too, and they've lost the meaning of the many different meanings of strength, because it's like, oh, we want a strong female woman, and they think that it has to be a woman that is muscular, that can beat up men, that really the femininity isn't there in terms of looking feminine. It- and it's like, no, women are strong in a different way. We overcome things in a different way. Now, there are women superheroes and women mutants with powers that can beat people up. Yeah, but when you're writing a story about a normal everyday woman and you're like, okay, I want her to be a strong female character, that doesn't mean put muscles on her and make her beat up every other man on the street that looks at her funny or tells her she needs to smile more, because that's not what strength is in a woman.
Agree.
It's like
I think
going off on your tangent, Maddie. The Klingons in Star Trek, right? Especially the Next Generation, proves they don't know what courage is. Because
Yeah.
Klingons don't know fear. They've got no concept of fear, right?
Yeah.
That's not bravery.
No.
And a race that doesn't have fear would be long extinct.
Well, it's
Funnily enough.
my friend Angela that's in my server every once in a while. She said her and her friend here got into an argument on stream one time because she said, if you look at the definition of hero, the only time Superman fits that definition is when he's afraid of losing a loved one. Because other than that, he has nothing to be afraid of in order to overcome the fear and be a hero by the definition of hero.
And the thing is, Superman never calls himself a hero.
No, he doesn't. It's everybody else that calls him one.
Yeah.
Anyway, Yorkie, you started to say something, mate. Go on.
Oh yeah, with the whole women being badasses thing, I think it's best executed where instead of it just being them magically amazing in every form of combat, instead they actually think tactically. Like, I remember there was one audio drama that I listened to a while back where it was some fantasy thing and they're going through some sort of rigorous training to become dragon riders, but they have to do constant sparring matches and there's often deaths. And even though she's the main character and ends up being almost like a prodigy in some way because it ends up with like two dragons choosing instead of just one. But even then, though, anytime she gets in a sparring match, she still gets the shit kicked out of her. But she was thinking tactically, and the way she did it was she volunteered to be part of the cooking staff, and whenever because they'd get told who their opponents were in advance, she'd always make sure to lightly poison their food. Not enough to kill them, but just enough for one of the limbs goes a bit numb, they keep throwing up, stuff like that. And even then, she'd still get a black eye, cracked ribs, and stuff like that.
Yeah. Women throughout history have been great poisoners. Let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, one of the worst misunderstandings of a character I've seen over all the conversations on Twitter is the people that bitch that Lois Lane, the old Lois Lane, not this new one, the old Lois Lane was always a damsel in distress. If you think that Lois Lane for any reason is a weak woman that constantly needs to be rescued, you have no clue who that person is.
Do you know what annoyed me about later iterations of Lois Lane? And before I go on, I've got to say, greetings, Gerardi. How are you functioning?
I was wondering when you were going to get to that.
Lois Lane, later iterations. She has all of these skills because her father was in the Air Force, and she knows how to fight, and she knows how to fire weapons and fly helicopters. She's not going to learn all of that just because her dad was was an officer in the Air Force.
No. I mean, if you're going to go along that line, then, my dad was an Air Force aircraft mechanic, so I should be able to walk up to any fucking airplane in existence and be able to fix it. No, that's not the way this works.
No, it isn't.
Did my dad teach me how to box? Yes. Did my dad teach me how to change a tire or change oil in my car? Yes. Did my dad teach me how to fix a fucking airplane? No. No, he
You
did not.
get these post-war TV shows that are set on military bases or in the military, right?
Mhm.
And they were usually pretty accurate. And you know why? Because just about all of the writers were men, and just about all of the writers had served in some capacity in the military.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Brits versus Americans on something or other.
No, we're
Uh,
just having conversations
Here's the
about
funny
Brits.
thing. You should have been here for the first part of the conversation. Somehow we've gone from ants in the military to Lois Lane.
Right.
Just to let you know where we started and where we're at.
Well,
Work
I
that
mean,
one.
Like going back to that one, that would actually be a terrifying thing, wouldn't it? If you could genetically modify tigers to carry weapons and stuff and have them as paratroopers.
well, I can't remember if this might have been a movie or some shit. You know, training dolphins to
No,
go
that
through
was a
a.
national program that the
Yeah.
US
Ah,
military had.
okay.
It was a U.S.
Yeah,
program
thanks.
too. I'm not going to
Yeah.
deny that.
These
They're-
boogers were smart. Let's train them to lay mines underwater or find mines underwater.
no, they
Let's
were
train them to
teaching
do
them
all.
to actually attach them to boats.
And
Yep.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I
you know,
didn't
you
know
know why?
that. I thought
You
they were
know
just
why?
used as underwater sniffing dogs.
Oh no,
You,
no,
you,
no.
hey, you know why it failed? It
Mm.
failed because the dolphins were smart and they realised that these things are dangerous. We're not going anywhere near them.
I'm assuming you know about the absolute genius that was the Russian military, where they were training dogs to put mines up onto
yeah.
tanks.
World War Two.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
that, they were training to go up to columns of German soldiers and act friendly before they
Yeah.
blew up.
I was
Yeah.
going to say, you did hear about what happened with the dogs, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
They were
cool. Just wanted to
basically
make sure.
bombs with legs.
Yeah, the fact that they ran over to the Russian tanks and
Yeah.
they were closer. But yeah, that is just glorious. I like that concept.
Well, I mean, it's you can't. You know, these people. Yeah, I remember the whole thing about. Yeah, my dad was in the military and he taught me how to do this. Bitch, no, that's not the way this works. That is really not the way. It's at best you were probably on base in on base housing with your mom, and you were probably privy to a meeting once or twice a week with other military moms with their kids, and while you're having a play date, your mom was talking to other moms because they were supporting each other while their husbands were deployed. That's more realistic than the crap you're spewing out of your mouth right now.
Oh God, I remember one where your mother, right? This is after my dad left the army, and she's having this argument with this other woman, right? About army life. And this woman says, "Well, my husband's in the army, so I know all about the army. You know, my husband was in the army, and I don't know anything about what life's like for a soldier because I wasn't a fucking soldier."
Mm-hmm.
Well, she didn't say fucking, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Oh,
like
but here's another one about going back to your Lois Lane, Maddie. The reason why she was always needing to be rescued was the very proof that she wasn't a damsel in distress because she put herself into dangerous situations.
yeah,
Almost
yeah,
every
I know.
time.
Yeah,
She did anything to hunt down a story,
yeah.
even if it meant putting herself in harm's way, which more often than not she did. Yeah, she wasn't a damsel in distress.
Well, what
Either
kind of
her or
stories was
Jimmy
she always
in
going
danger.
for? She was always
Yeah.
going for the stories that the big sensational ones that were all about corruption or something else along those lines. She hated
Mhm.
being
Or people
assigned the
putting
little,
bombs on.
oh, this is this story about the wonderful school and schoolyard thing. She hated those stories. She wanted the
Or,
Yeah.
or,
big
or
ones.
she's going on to do a story about people putting bombs on elevators in the Eiffel Tower. Superman too.
Lady, gentlemen, Batman, I'm going to have to go now. I'll speak to you all later.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
All
Jensen.
right.
Take
Right.
care, lad.
Take
I'll
care.
have to go soon as well.
So, completely off topic, but how have you been, Maddie? I hadn't seen you in like a couple of years or something.
It's been a struggle on my gaming channel, and I think I typed in the chat. I maybe not. I will. I have a complete update as to how my cancer is doing and what the treatments have done to me and stuff, and the fact that I am still plodding along because I'm getting up every morning, look at myself in the mirror, and look down at where the cancer is, and going, "I'm still here, fucker." Because I refuse to acquiesce because it's either me or it, and it ain't gonna be me.
Damn right, it's not.
Yeah.
I have things to do. I have friends to hang out with. I have stuff that I would like to accomplish, and it
You've
just
got
needs to,
people on Twitter. You've got people on
finally
Twitter,
learn how to
right?
read and get the eviction notice and be on its merry fucking way.
And you've got people on Twitter to annoy.
Yeah. And people here in Discord that I have to annoy with my coffee memes. Hello.
Don't annoy me.
Those of you have to look forward to actually.
What?
You have to look forward to the coffee memes.
Yeah. I mean, it was like I will say some of the stuff on here. It's like in 2023, in November of 2023, the last PET scan revealed that the cancer had spread, and the oncologist had gave me less than a year to live.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
when she gave me this news, it was still processing in my brain. So I'm just sitting there, just looking at her, because it really hadn't hit yet. Ronan was with me, and she had to hand him a tissue because he was, obviously he was upset. He was crying. Okay. Because that isn't the kind of news you want to hear. So after a while, it started affecting me, and I literally pulled away from the world, and I was cocooning in the bedroom, just watching TV and doing whatever on my phone, wishing the world would go away. It took me a while to realize, hey, stupid, you're depressed. This isn't the right frame of mind to be in to fight this shit. You need to do something about this. So after constantly trying to get out of it and winding myself back into it, I actually reached out to my palliative care doctor and asked them if there was some sort of mental help that I could get. So they, referred me to a psychologist, and he helped me a lot. So now I am actually to the point where I am creating content again, where I'm working on my novels and my stories again, where I'm hanging out with friends again and posting coffee memes in different servers and stuff, as to where I wasn't doing that before. So
Yeah.
I'm considering that a major plus on my side of things, because I'm slowly getting to the point where my brain is in the place that it was before I received the news, because I understand that fighting this disease, 50% of it is your mentality and how you think about approaching this disease.
Yeah.
And
I
if you let yourself think that it's going to overcome you and you give in to depression, then it wins.
Yep. And once you give into it, it'll spread.
Yep. And I'm not ready to give into it yet. I'm too fucking stubborn. Ha.
That's kind of me and my cat. Yeah, I'm still depressed about it, but I'm using things like I'm coming on this and stuff like that to get past it.
Yep. And you're always welcome in our server when we're in there if you need to hang out and talk and stuff. You know
Mhm.
that.
Most of the time, I would need to be by myself at the moment, like. But I'm coming on to live streams to get out of myself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Weird
Completely.
thing is, I mean, I know it's my imagination, but I can feel the cat's presence, and there's been nights where I felt him on the bed. I've even felt him in the bed, felt his fur and his heat, and heard him purring. But that's my imagination. I know that.
When I lost Lady, Lady was a mixed breed dog that I had had for 16 years. I went through that. So yeah, because she was the most
Good age.
friendliest dog I had ever met before Zeus and Ruby came around.
Mhm.
And when she died after 16 years, it was, you could swear you still feel them walking around and sitting next to you and,
Yep.
and being there, with you, when you know that in reality they're not. And that's the hardest part to get past.
I
It's
don't.
kind of like having a phantom limb, except with a
Yeah.
pet that's passed away.
I don't think I'll ever get past that because I haven't gotten past that with my first cat.
Yeah. Oh, they're always going to be with you in memory,
Yeah.
in your heart. You're always going to, think about them, because if you don't, then to me, there's something wrong with you mentally. Because I remember every pet that I've had and lost.
Yeah.
They all affect you a different way.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's like, she was 16 and she got up one morning and she was walking in circles. She couldn't walk a straight line. She was walking in circles. And we didn't know why she was walking in circles. And I got her to stand in front of me, and when I held her head still, her eyes were darting left to right rapidly. So when we
Mhm.
took her to the vet, he said, What she has is an inner ear infection that has cropped up into her brain. And I looked at him and he goes, there's at least 3 different medications that have shown promise. I said, can you guarantee me that if I get these medications, that she'll be 100% better? He said, I cannot. I said, then let's just put her to sleep. And he looked at me. I said, I promised myself a long time ago that I am not going to make an animal suffer because I can't bear to let them go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's selfish. That's selfish.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my father did with his dog in January. Because if we wanted to just keep her alive, regardless of suffering, she could have easily made like another 6 months, maybe a year at a push. But that would have been suffering because she was going blind and deaf, and arthritis as well.
Yeah, I was 12 when I came to that decision. My dad had flown us to Newark to visit some relatives up there, and in a basement apartment is where they were keeping their pet chihuahua, which I had met before. And I went down there, opened the door, and it started barking at me, and I noticed that it was blind. So I just sat in the same room, waited for it to remember my scent, and it came up to me, and I realized it only had 4 teeth left. It was barely walking, and I'm like, why? Because I could tell the dog was in pain. This wasn't quality of life for this dog.
No.
He was barely walking. He could barely eat. He couldn't see. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this to any of my pets. That was my resolve at the age of 12. I went back upstairs, and they explained to me everything that was wrong with the Chihuahua. And I'm like, have you ever thought about just putting him to sleep? Oh, we can't bear to live without him.
Learn.
You have him locked in the basement. You go down to visit him because you don't want him biting people that he doesn't recognize, but you can't live without. I didn't say that out loud.
I would have.
I was 12. In a Cuban family, you don't, speak against your elders.
That's how you get a. That's how you get a sandal imprinted onto your forehead.
Yeah. So when we were in the airplane coming back down from Newark, my mom said, "And what happened?" And I told him, and she went, "Yeah, I didn't get that either." I said, "You could have said something." Mom goes, "It wasn't my place to tell them what to do with their animal." Right. She goes, "Besides, you had already asked the question I was going to ask them anyway."
And on that note, I'm going to bugger off.
Okay.
Take care, lads.
I'll talk to you later. I said I'd join Tia and Mitch on Never Watch Alone. So. Yeah, besides that, I'm going to grab myself a piece of cheese.
Okay.
Shriek at you later.
All right.
Later. Bye-bye.
Don't forget, Batman. Don't forget, Batman. If you ever need anyone to chat to, you can just message any of us.
Oh, yeah. I know that. You lot take care of yourselves.
Take care.
Right.
See you, lad.
I'll see you later.
Take care. Mm-hmm.
Bye. And click.
And he's gone. Sad part is he's not going to be here to yell at the people when I end the stream.
Right.
Because that's one of his favorite things.
Yeah, and because he makes a noise when he leaves, he's not pulling a true Batman, because a true Batman would mean he would leave without us knowing that he left.
Behind the scenes in the background. Yes. So now that we're down to just the 3 of us, all right. I have some questions about what the hell is going on with, and I'm not. The one thing that I've never understood about the internet, and the internet groups, and the internet chats, and the communities that they talk about is, why all the drama? Why is it that drama channels are so?
Because it's easier to start shit on the internet where you don't have to face somebody face to face than it is in real life.
Okay, I get the fact that you will say things, anonymously, that you won't see you face to face, right? But why do you want to start shit?
Right? See, that by extension is my question of utter confusion is if you don't like somebody and you don't like the content they're producing, why do you continue to follow them, watch their shit, and bitch about it? Just ignore them. Act like they don't fucking exist. It's not worth the stress.
I used to be into getting involved in alt drama and stuff like that, but then I grew up, which is more than could be said for people who are like, you know, in their 40s and jobless and still doing this and e-begging.
No, so I've gotten to the point where, you know, I've never been one to put myself into drama, or if I sniff it coming in my direction in the group that I'm in, that I slowly pull myself out of the group and go do something else before the drama hits. You know, I do try and keep up with it so I can avoid it. So you can say I'm the person sitting in the bleachers eating the popcorn.
Well, the thing that
Because,
gets me
you know,
is about it is so much of it to me is I look at it and I don't understand it. I don't. First of all, I don't understand what the beef is. All right,
yeah,
a lot of times when they're commenting about some of this stuff, um,
yeah,
and I, I I'm a little bit different in how I approach certain aspects of things. Okay, um, because when you talk about, like, for example, one of my biggest bugaboos is quote unquote age of consent. Okay, to
mhm,
me,
Yeah,
and this is
can't hard.
something that's always been this is my own personal opinion, and I'm not talking legal standards. Okay, I fully understand that this is at odds with legal standards. But for
okay,
me, once you turn 16, okay, you should be cognizant, and you are totally cognizant of your own body, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not saying it's not unseemly for a 16-year-old to sleep with a 25-year-old or even a 30-year-old or anything like that. I'm not making that case. Okay, what I'm saying is when you look at that, you have to start taking some accountability for some of this stuff. Now, if somebody's 19 years old and they end up talking on the internet with somebody that's 14 years old, okay, should they be more aware of what they're doing? Sure. All right. But as long as they haven't done some of the stupid shit that these people obviously do, right? Which nobody should be doing, in my opinion. For example, if you're sending an unclothed picture of yourself to somebody else, you're already wrong. Okay? I
yeah,
don't care if it's a
yeah,
50-year-old sending it to another 50-year-old. You're an idiot. Okay?
yeah,
All right?
yeah. I
I,
mean,
I
yeah,
just I look at that and go, why would you even do this? Now,
yeah,
it's don't get me wrong. I've seen stuff like I knew a guy in the military who would constantly take pictures of the different girls he was with in various states of undress or not undress, however you want to look at it, right? And
yeah,
he had an album of women like this, and I was like, why would you do that? Why would you even want to do this? It's like, I've never understood it. I've never understood
yeah,
that mentality. All right. But to me, look, if you turn 16 and you haven't figured out that you shouldn't be sleeping with somebody that's 20 or 22 or 23, okay, the law isn't going to help that person. You know what I mean?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm not saying that there aren't predators out there that look for that group, okay? Because there
Yeah,
are, okay. But there's a huge difference between, and this is how I see it. Turning 16 is a young adult, okay? They're not a child anymore. And they shouldn't be treated as children anymore. Right?
Yeah.
There should be
Also,
expectations laid upon them. Now, I'm not saying the world of expectation. I'm not saying that they have to, the world has to be dumped on them to where they have to take care of and provide for the family and everything else. I understand. And look, I know that happens. Okay, but and that's unfortunate. But I'm not saying do that. I'm not saying go to that extent. But you need to start saying, okay, the bubble wrap has to come off at some freaking point.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's like
My dad joined the army when I was 16,
yeah.
and then a
Oh,
few
it's
months
like
in, almost got blown up by the IRA.
yeah. Well, it's like my son when he reached I think 15, 16 years old. He told me that he didn't want me to treat him like a kid anymore. I'm like, okay, fine. So, he said he wanted to look for a job. I said, all right, if you need a ride, I'll be in the living room. So the next day comes. I'm already up. I'm doing my usual morning stuff. He doesn't get up till around 10 o'clock. And he comes in there and he goes, Mom, you didn't wake me up. I said, I don't wake adults up. They have alarm clocks.
That's exactly right.
He looked at me. I said, you want me to treat you like an adult? Well, that means you have to be responsible enough to set an alarm clock to get up as early as you want to get up in order to start doing your job hunt. I said, I'm not going to wake you up. I wake children up for school. You don't want me to treat you like a child? I'm not treating you like a child.
You should have just leaned over him and went, "Isn't this what you asked for, mortal?"
Well, it's like I used to have a booth in at a flea market where I would sell my stuff. Okay. He asked me one day because I found in this flea market there was a tattoo booth. Now, to tell you that this was the cleanest fucking booth in the entire fucking flea market, I'm not exaggerating. I know why it has to be clean. I know why it has to be sterile. I'm just saying it is the cleanest damn booth I had seen in any flea market I had ever been to in my life. Okay? I talked to the guy that owned the booth. I told him that my kid did artwork. And he said, next time you come, bring your kid, have him bring his sketchbook. I'll take a look at it and see if he wouldn't mind selling some of his designs. I went, okay, cool. So I go home and I tell him what I said, who I bumped into, the chat that we had and everything. He goes, all right, cool. So when are you going to go to the flea market next? I said, well, I go every weekend. I'm going to go next weekend, starting on Saturday. He goes, all right, come and get me. I said, all right. I tried waking him up 4 different fucking times. He wouldn't wake up. I left. I came back after the end of the day. He said, you didn't try to wake me up. I said, I tried to wake you up 4 times. Even the roommate went, yeah, she walked into that room 4 times, tried to wake you up. You did not wake up. You'd roll over and go back to sleep. And then he looked at me and goes, well, you could have taken my sketchbook. It is not my art to sell.
Nope.
It is not me that wants to make money off my art. It is you. It's your art. It's your responsibility to market yourself. It's another one of those cases of me being grown, huh? Yes. You have to act like an adult. I told you I'm leaving at 6 o'clock because I have to be there by 7 to set up my booth and have it running by 8. I gave you my timetable in the morning. You didn't set an alarm. I was being nice, trying to wake you up. Your ass did not wake up. I'm not going to waste time in the morning continually trying to wake you up. You don't want to get up, so I left. The world's not going to wait for you to get out of bed.
Nope.
I actually quite like how you handled it, where he's shown clearly that he has responsibilities and actions have consequences, but you weren't a dick about it. You weren't screaming about how you failed to do this one thing. You bring shame and dishonor. No, it was just actions have consequences. Do better.
You have dishonored the family. Here's the sword. You know what to do.
Well, it's like he got arrested for shoplifting, right? And I told him, I said, you're going to pay back the money for the fines and stuff because this was not a planned expense. I said, and I will pay the fine as long as you're proving to me that you're looking for work and you're doing your community service. I said, the moment I realize you're not doing either one, I'm not paying that fine. He goes, you realize that means I'm going to go to jail? Yes, I know what it means. I said, but I'm not going to pay for you to not do anything. That's the way I see it. This is your punishment, not mine. I'm not the one that shoplifted.
Exactly.
So he started out doing everything he was supposed to, and then for like 3 or 4 days there, he didn't leave the house. He wasn't doing anything. And I went, all right, well, we don't have the money this week to pay for your fine. Huh? I don't want to go to jail. And I don't want you to go to jail. So you better figure it out. I said, you got 3 days to figure something out because depending on you, we might have the money, we might not have the money.
You know,
I
life
think
does
if I
change.
shoplifted, I think my parents would have just blocked my fucking legs.
Why? Look, I learned that day. I learned when I got, first of all, I had to restrain myself from being arrested for murder for a stepdad because in 20 minutes his stepdad said in 3 different times that one night in jail was enough, and then an entire week before his day in court was a bit excessive. He worded that like 3 different times in a 20-minute time span when I had already told my son all of his life that if he were to get arrested because of something he did, I'm not bailing him out. That's not happening. However, if he got arrested and it was a clear-cut case of wrong place, wrong time, okay, I'm bailing you out because you didn't do it. You just happened to be in the wrong fucking circumstance at the wrong time. But he did this. So I wasn't about to bail him out. But his freaking stepdad wouldn't shut the hell up. And I'm like, okay, it's either kill his stepdad and go to jail for murder or get him out of jail after spending one night in it. All right, let's do the second one.
Going through
Not
the
first.
options, checking them off. Okay, what are the pros and cons?
To be fair,
Right.
if you did kill him and went to jail, in a way, you would be sort of leading by example of I'm accepting the punishments for my actions. You should do the same.
Right. Now, I get him out of jail, right? And then I find out that as a parent, the best form of punishment that I could possibly give him is not to yell at him and smack the shit out of him, but just the threat that I might hit him at any time and see that look on his face was just priceless. I might have liked it a little too much.
Perhaps.
Because 3 days of this and my kid went, Mom, can you just go ahead and hit me already? For what? Well, I did the shoplifting and everything. Yeah, I know that. You're not going to hit me? I haven't decided yet. Oh.
The sword still exists.
Yeah.
And still, suddenly they start trying to bribe you by doing.
Yeah,
all of
the
chores.
problem with that,
Just
the only
wait.
problem with that though is there are people like me. All right, that wouldn't have bothered me a whole lot. I hate to say that, but it's true.
Like,
Right,
by
if I
the
was in
time
that
we got into this, I
situation.
had tried just about every punishment available. I tried spanking him. I've tried grounding him. I've tried taking things away from him. And then I figured, okay, let's try a different form of corporal punishment. So one day he screwed up, and I went, Paul, drop. How many push-ups you want me to give you? Okay, this shit ain't working. He's enjoying this now.
Yeah, there are some times when people don't realize that those kind of techniques don't work with certain individuals, right?
I mean, it worked for a little bit, but that one day when he goes, ooh, push-ups, how many? Okay, this isn't supposed to be
This is
pleasurable
supposed
for
to be as
you.
you should be taking this as the opportunity to work out that you obviously are.
Right? I'm like, and I got to come up with another punishment that might work because I didn't know. Because first it was sit-ups, then he started liking it. Then it was the push-ups. Then he was asking me for how. I'm like, okay, this isn't the way the punishment is supposed to. How the fuck do people do this in the military and it stick? I don't understand this.
The reason it works in the military is not is because of the ability to force conformance to the group is much higher. All right, and this is in our society in the civilian world. Right, I'm speaking from military experience of 14 years in the military and an extra 4 afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually 2 afterwards, but the military forces you through boot camp to always focus on, first of all, here are standards you have to adhere to. Okay, and then under those standards are here's the goal we're all going to work toward. Okay? So it becomes less about what I want per se and more about, okay, what can I achieve with everyone else?
Okay.
And so, and it's effective. Okay, it's effective because everybody is working toward the same goals. And once you're in that, your mindset is all the same. This is the same reason why when you have a homogenous society, such as why are there fewer prisons in, let's say, Norway per capita? Well, because societal wise, they have very little differentiation between them. The army functions that way, all right? Because socialized, there's very little differences in the society. So societal norms can apply pressure and are just as effective at applying pressure. That's why it works. People aren't looking at that going, you had to do push-ups, right? Oh, I got to do push-ups. They're looking at it as I had to do push-ups because I let everybody down, and they're all looking at me. Right?
Okay.
Also, I've got a slight anecdote for something like that. My dad, back when he was doing basic training, they had one guy in his barracks room that was absolutely useless at everything. And like whenever he'd fuck up, the rest of the group would have to suffer the punishment as well. So one day they got absolutely sick of this guy's shit, stuffed him into his own locker, and they threw the locker down the stairs.
Oh.
But it was the 80s, you could get away with that shit back then. And apparently he adjusted himself afterwards.
Well, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, which leads you to the other problem with the military, right, when it comes to conformance. When you fail conformance, the question is why? Okay, your mates are going to be a lot more understanding if the reason you failed in conformance had to do with the fact that you literally were not ready for it. Does that make sense? If
Yeah.
not the I'm being willful. Okay, if you're one of the willful assholes, okay, you will be realigned. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things that would happen with people like that is, if I'll just give you a story, is there was a guy who he was a jackass. He just was personally a jerk, okay? And he was not trying to fit in, and it was always about him, okay? Now, did he meet military standards? He would meet military standards, but he wouldn't meet the standards of we're doing this together, we're trying to get along, right? Kind of. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it was physically fit and competent. It was just an absolute dick and wouldn't socialize properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And then it was one of those, what are you going to do to me? Okay. Well, the last day when he was getting to rotate out of the unit and he still had to go to work, right? They found him strapped into a cart with duct tape. And then they went around the site where people would donated coffee grounds into him, paper Chad, bottles of Flux, other stuff was dumped on him that was like powdered ink and stuff, right? And then he was left in the corridor for an hour and a half, just taped to this cart, right? And people would walk by, help, until they stuffed a thing in his mouth.
I could just imagine like a column of like corporals and shit just going like shame. Like Red Bull at him.
I was like, I kind of noticed because there is an inner rivalry in between the branches of the military.
Inter-service rivalry exists, yes.
And the unending ribbing that the Air Force gets because Air Force,
because they shouldn't exist.
Yeah, whenever I'm in a group, talking to veterans and stuff, and they ask me what my dad did, and I told them he was a staff sergeant in the Air Force, and that he was in Vietnam. The ribbing starts, and then one of them inevitably asks me, "What did he do in Vietnam?" I said, "Well, the one thing that he can talk about that he did in Vietnam was that he was dropped into hot zones to either try and repair the fighter plane to have it flown out, or to get the information out of the plane, finish destroying the plane, and then getting evac'd out of the area." And that's when it goes from ribbing to, "Oh, damn, much respect for your dad."
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
Trust me.
Because, I couldn't imagine having bullets whizzing by my head when I'm trying to concentrate on fixing an aircraft, because I'd be panicking. My shorts would be soiled. I'm gonna admit that right now.
Um, the thing is there's a mentality that goes with that they instill into you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's not perfect. Not everyone reacts the same way. But when you're trained to react a certain way, when you go through training, the training is actually very good to cause you to react correctly without
Yeah.
thinking generally. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you go through all this type of training and stuff. So it becomes less of a you know when you're not thinking rationally, okay, in the sense of how am I going to get out of this? You've already established that in your mind. I get out of this as quickly as
Yeah.
possible by fixing this. Okay, I mean I
Yeah.
know that sounds weird
Yeah.
because the you, see the military teaches you very quickly. If you ever go through like a combat exercise where they've got miles gear and everything on, you quickly learn if you freeze up and try to hunker down, you're a dead man. Okay, you've got to be aware of your
Mm-hmm.
surroundings. The moment you lose cognizance of your surroundings, you realize you're a dead man. All right, because of the after action when your miles gear screams at you and things like that. It's not a guarantee that you're going to survive by doing these other things, but you do realize very quickly that when you just freeze and you just stop in one area, those people never make it. Okay, they never make it,
Yeah.
and so you're trained to react the right way. You're trained to go through this stuff. Is it going to be perfect? Does it guarantee your survival? Well, no. Is some of it counterintuitive to your initial bodily reactions? For example, one of the things that they always taught us was when you're on a patrol, if you get ambushed, you basically rush forward through the ambush. You don't retreat. Okay? You don't turn your back in any way, shape, or form. Because the moment you do, they got easy, regular shots to kill you. But if you're running at them, shooting at them as you're trying to bust through the ambush, okay, you're causing them to put their heads down as you get past it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Or does shouldn't say make sense, but you understand what I'm saying? So you practice this, you go through this, right? So that when the situation hits, you just follow along with what you were always trained to do. Your brain, your brain is not in flight the way people think it is. You're just doing things by rote with most of your brain turned off. All right, aspects of your brain turned off is
Mm-hmm.
how I should say. Okay, and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, when you get dropped in those kind of zones and things like that, the reason we kid the Air Force for two reasons, right? Especially from the Army. One, quite frankly, the Air Force when they're in combat, generally it's always the officers. It's never the enlisted. Okay, so there's a more appreciation of the officer class than not, and the fact that they're officers gives a different level to it anyway. All right. Um, but the Air Force always has all right. The Air Force always has all the best stuff. Okay, it has the best food. Right, it has the best clubs. The bases are so much nicer and better. Okay.
Yeah, much better funding in general. I assume a better paycheck as well.
Well, their paycheck's the same. From a rank perspective,
Oh.
paychecks are basically the same. But the food is always better. Their mess halls are better. They're not living in tents. They're living in buildings, right?
Yeah, I remember my dad saying to me if he could have redone his time in the military, he'd have gone with Navy instead of the Army.
The Navy guys are a different situation. The Navy guys are weird. Okay.
You cut out there. I didn't hear it.
The Air Force is pampered. The Navy guys are weird. All right. Because there's two types. Well, first of all, there's Navy, and then there's Marines. Okay, and the Marines are actually part in the United States. The Marines are part of the Navy. They fall under the Department of Navy, and so they have a different mentality. And the Navy guys and the Marine guys are already butting heads with one another. Okay, so when it comes to the United States Army and the Marines, it's a different. It's more of a puff out your chest. I'm tougher than you. Rivalry. Does that make sense? You don't have that with the Navy people.
Yeah.
You don't. The Navy is looked upon as different, mainly because the Navy, they're weird. Okay. They have a different mindset. All right. Most Army people will look at Navy people, and they most Navy guys, the way that, not Marines, but the Navy guys, they think of the Navy guys as very docile. Okay. And the reason for that is when you're on a ship and you're on the at sea, the hierarchy, respecting the hierarchy, is far more rigid than it is within an army unit. Okay, I'm not saying you disrespect the hierarchy. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the absolutism of the ship's commander, okay, is accepted to a degree that you don't see anywhere else. Because it has to be in order for the ship to function, right? That hierarchy of the old days of Captain Bligh still exists, right? That mentality within the Navy people themselves still exists that way. It doesn't make them, when I say docile, it makes them more compliant in certain ways that with the Army, we look at and go, why are you being so accommodating about that? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The Air Force, like I said, we always look at them as pampered because, like I said, they had all the best shit. Always. You go onto an Air Force base. The only Army base that I ever saw that came close to the accommodations that you see on an Air Force base was at Fort Meade, right, which was NSA headquarters. The rest of them, the accommodations were just, military Army accommodation. I'll give you an example. When I went to Augsburg, Germany, and I went to my base, I was in a room, all right, that was tiled flooring, right? There was a bathroom down the hall that was a communal bathroom for the entire floor, okay, and they rolled the carpet out like a regular carpet on the floor, right? Just a big long carpet rolled on in the middle that didn't completely go the width of the hallway, right? But we did have a small carpet area. The Air Force had a fully carpeted thing. They had two people in each room. They still had a communal bathroom, all right, but it wasn't for the full floor. It was a communal bathroom for a group of 4 of them. Does that make sense? Of a group of four, and they ate the same food in our mess hall. But because their housing was so substandard and the food was substandard, they were given extra rations and extra money because of the quote unquote substandard living conditions. And we're looking at that going, you guys suck. And that's why.
Oh, well.
Because they're already living in better living conditions than we have, and yet we're still, and they're still saying what they have is still substandard. But our mess hall, I mean, I'll be honest, our mess hall was, it's like a school cafeteria. You go through the line, you get your tray, you get your food on it, off you go. It wasn't. I won't say it's you were at a 5-tier, a 5-star restaurant or anything, but it it wasn't bad for the most part. So when you're out in the field, food gets bad. Okay,
Mm.
it's horrible because in some ways the MREs and when I first came in, they actually still had K rations. The K rations are horrific, by the way. There's no the MREs were much better than the K rations, and K rations they're really not bad. I mean the MRE rather. I mean the MREs were really not bad. It's just after you've been eating MREs for like 3 days straight, that's been your meal. You look forward to the hot meal that they're going to give you, right? When they come out
Yeah.
and finally give you a hot meal, and you
Yep.
and you don't care how it tastes. Okay, I'm going to be real blunt. You don't care how it tastes. It's hot. Yeah, I can't describe this. And I'm
Yeah,
not saying the
when
taste
when you're
was.
hungry, you're not picky.
It's not hunger anymore because you're not super hungry per se, but the hot meal, there's such a mentality with getting a hot meal that you're willing to overlook the fact that your scrambled eggs are now green. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
All right, coming from the
I
mermite
think on that
can.
note, I'm gonna have to bid you adieu.
Okay.
Yeah, nice seeing you again.
It's been great talking to you guys.
Yep. Take it easy,
Take care of
Maddie.
yourselves.
Yeah, I think
Take
I
care.
think we've been streaming long enough anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So thanks for
All right.
coming out,
You hear that?
everybody.
He's ending the stream, so I'm gonna take Batman's thing here. Y'all bugger off. There's nothing else to listen to.
Thanks. I'm sure people really appreciate it. But thanks for coming out, everybody. Hope you all have a good day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, everybody.